this is a directive that within 5 days, every single agency head has to identify a chief savings officer. And then within 45 days, those officers have to come back to us with a full assessment of the savings that could be pursued, the efficiencies that we're currently seeing, and the programs that frankly need to be sunsetted or are not effective.
Okay, so go ahead, put your John Hancock on that. And that will become officially an executive order as of this moment, right?
Yes, this is now an executive order, the first to be signed on Pix 11.
There we go. Okay, welcome to Pix on Politics, everybody. I'm Dan Mannarino. Major news this week, made right here on Pix 11. You just saw it there. Mayor Mamdani signing that executive order requiring every city agency to hire a chief savings officer to help close the massive $12 billion budget gap. The mayor, well, he has less than 2 weeks now to deliver a balanced budget. He says that balance depends on a new relationship with the state, internal savings, and a tax on wealthier New Yorkers. That last point, something Governor Kathy Hochul has repeatedly said she will not do. It is clear, tough choices lie ahead.
Cuts are a matter of last resort. Right? We do not want to be cutting the services that New Yorkers are relying on. If the state does not change its relationship to the city, if it does not raise taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers or the most profitable corporations, then all that leaves the city with are the most painful tools. However, we want to do everything we can to ensure that those are not the tools we have to use.
Okay, so there's a big task ahead of him, and to discuss this big move to close out the first month of Mayor Mamdani, we are bringing in our Pix panel. And this week on our panel, Pix 11 senior political reporter Henry Rossoff, City Hall reporter for the Daily News, Josie Stratman, and Democratic strategist Nick Smith. So great to have all three of you here.
Great to be here.
Okay, so Mayor Mamdani finishing up his first month on the job. And before we get to the executive orders and the snow cleanup and all the things that you kind of judge a mayor about, I want to talk about where exactly we are 30 days into his mayoralty and kind of where he thinks he is. I mean, it's usually judge somebody 100 days in, but here we are first month down, and it seems like he's weathering the storm.
Well, when you have a literal storm, when you have a cold snap, when you have a $12 billion budget deficit, although some would dispute those numbers, I mean, we're in it. This is Mayor Mamdani's New York right now. I mean, there's been a lot for him to handle. I would say that he's doing the best that he can in his own opinion, because, and I would say it very carefully like that, because anytime we ask him about a challenge, for example, the 10 homeless deaths, or 10 cold weather deaths, I should say, it's still to be determined if all of them were homeless. He says, you know, we're doing all we can, I'm deputizing everyone, but that's a lot of people that passed away on city streets on his watch, and he's already catching scrutiny for that.
Yeah, I think that big thing, Josie, is scrutiny is getting specifics when you ask questions. And I know that you're at a lot of the events, and just this week with some of the appointments, right, you want to get specific on why you're choosing certain people, and the specifics seem to lack sometimes in the answers.
Right. There was a specific press conference earlier this week, which you're referencing, where he appointed new commissioners for the Department of Probation and DCAS, which handles the city's leasing processes. Both of these departments have come under intense scrutiny under former Mayor Adams. And when these new appointees came up to the podium, they were kind of at a loss in terms of specific questions like, will you be reviewing potentially corrupt leases under ex-cronies of the mayor?
Yeah.
The mayor jumped in, kind of saved them, said, hey, I'm going to give them a little bit more time so they can reassess. But these are people who've been in the departments they're now heading for years.
Yeah, and you know, and I bring up the specifics, Nick, because I want to talk specifically about the budget now. You just saw him right here on Pix 11 sign this executive order for chief savings officers, many comparing it to the Adams administration and pegs and cuts to city agencies. He's saying cuts are a last resort, Mayor Mamdani is. But when you look at the specifics here, and I asked him, what are some things you're looking at saying this is a waste of money? He named a chatbot or $500,000 AI bot, right? Didn't have really specific things that he already knows are a problem. Could that hurt him long term with the lack of specifics?
I think voters are going to give him the benefit of doubt for the next few months on this budget issue. You know, if I were him, I wouldn't actually name too many programs that he would consider cutting or finding efficiencies in right now, because he wants to get the lay of the land. It's been 30 days. He wants to get the lay of the land and figure out in the universe of all these city programs that are sometimes federally subsidized or state subsidized, most often actually, what makes sense to pull back. So I liked what he said about let's look at the things that exist, and let's see if we can pull back a little bit. So I don't criticize him right now for not being very specific. I think voters are going to give him a little time to say, all right, now that we've had about a few months to see where we are, here are a couple of programs that we can pull back.
Okay.
Yeah, well, because you remember Mayor Adams started getting specific when he thought the city was going underwater with the budget crisis. He very specifically laid out some school cuts that were very unpopular, even some sanitation. Libraries was the big one, even some trimming on the edges of some of the sanitation stuff for a period of time. And people got very upset very quickly.
Yeah.
And so in fairness to what you just said, I would say that maybe it is good politics, albeit frustrating for us because, we in the media like to ask specific questions.
Well, Nick, just to come back to you for a second, he blamed Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo, did not blame President Trump or Kathy Hochul or Brad Lander, former comptroller, who could have kind of sounded the alarm before this very moment.
Or the city council, which is largely the same as it was last year. So,
well, I will say this scales to this thing. So I actually did my homework and looked up Lander's stuff when they put out. He did in fact talk about at least a $4 billion gap. It's at 12, and in fairness, Eric Adams himself did mention 12 billion in one of his town halls, and he said it's because of the migrant surge that happened over the last, I think, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So this is more optics and politics versus substance, and I think once we hit, I think the 6-month mark, we'll have some more specificity.
Yeah, Josie, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, and so when we look at how the mayor came out, blamed Eric Adams, what we're seeing is he's kind of preempting the actual specifics. He's going to come out in a couple weeks with his preliminary budget plan. What he's doing right now is priming his base, saying, hey, this is a problem, it's not my fault, but we have solutions, and the solutions are my campaign promises of raising taxes on the rich, or the wealthiest corporations, or getting money from the state in other ways.
But it's even a problem, despite the lack of specifics that we've been talking about for a while now. The problem is what he's offered as solutions so far. I'm not going to cut anything.
Yeah.
There's going to be millionaire's tax. The governor says no. We're going to get more money from Albany. How? Why? Why would the governor in an election year be more incentivized to defund Long Island, Westchester, all the upstate communities she needs to pick away at? From a raw politics standpoint, she's got New York City locked up.
And has not really wavered at all on the no of raising taxes and the corporate tax rate as well. It has been a no from the beginning. It is still a no. She said, newsflash, I'm not doing it.
Though she did pitch the city some money for universal childcare.
Right, but when I asked Mayor Mamdani if she gave you money, would that help you with this? He said, we're looking at a long-term solution, which is why I still want to tax. But let me get further on beyond that. Could this be a real strain now between him as he gears up for Tin Cup Day going up to Albany, and could this put a real strain on his relationship that he paints as a rosy one?
Yes, I'm very curious to see what he puts in the budget. If he essentially puts that he expects X dollars from Albany that Albany is not prepared to give him, that sets up a rather direct conflict over billions of dollars. So short answer, yes, it could ruin the rosy relationship very quickly.
Josie, let me ask you just, storms are really big, and it seems like the streets got cleared, but we are dealing, like Henry alluded to at the top, with those deaths, 10 now, right? 10 weather-related deaths to hypothermia. Was it the right move? And some of the reporting that's out there is that he ordered these homeless encampments not to be cleared. Was it the right move?
Yes, this was something he said on the campaign trail, was that he wasn't going to continue this pretty controversial practice from Adams and past mayors to do homeless encampment sweeps. Something I'll note is we don't know that any of these deaths were in encampments.
Right.
So I don't know if there was a direct correlation from this directive from Mamdani to these deaths. At the same time, this is a lot of people who died right under his watch, and he's responsible for this. I know we're still under a code blue in the city, which means that there are additional outreach workers patrolling the streets looking for people to bring in from the cold. But this is also a challenge we're going to see through the rest of the week, maybe even to next week.
I wanted to do this because it was 30 days in, but I think, Nick, you bring up a really good point. It's just 30 days in, so let's give it some time before we continue this conversation. But great to have you, all three of you, here.